Hi, you're watching Patadendron, and in today's video, I'm showing you my top 10 houseplant recommendations for beginners. That's not pothos, yuck. Not ZZ plants, not snake plants. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if you're new here, hi, welcome, I'm Patrick, and I love plants. And if you do too, you should definitely hit that subscribe button. I love going on these planty adventures and taking you along with, so if that sounds like something that could be fun for you, hit that subscribe button. In today's video, I am showing you my top 10 favorite beginners houseplants. I am here at Plant Depot, which is a local gardening center here in Orange County, and I'm just gonna go through 10 plants that I really recommend for beginners. And I'm not going to do the common stuff. Well, these are all common, but you won't find snake plants, ZZ plants, or pothos on this list because there's tons of content out there that recommend those plants. These plants are a little different and something that you'll enjoy for many years to come. So without further ado, let's get to the 10 best beginner plants here at Plant Depot. First on the list of top 10 best beginner houseplants, I would have to say is the Monstera adansonii. This is a great classic plant that is a staple in every collection. Monsteras are amazing. As more time passes, the bigger they get, and yeah, Monstera adansonii is just one of those plants that will never not be exciting. See, it has these beautiful holes, which are called fenestrations, and it's just super easy. I learned how to propagate from a node with the Monstera adansonii. See, what happens is you can easily propagate this by cutting it at the node. I've even, this was my first wet stick propagation, which is like a leafless node propagation, and it is thriving. So Monstera adansonii, lots of lessons to be learned with this plant, while also really enjoying the foliage and beauty of the plant. See, look at how it looks when it's big. Isn't that impressive? Look at how full and beautiful this Monstera adansonii is. This one is the narrow leaf, the narrow form. So there's different types of forms of the Monstera adansonii. There's the narrow leaf. There is also the wide leaf, like that, or regular form. And then there are other subspecies like the laniata, which doesn't have the fenestrations. Really cool. This is a plant that's not going to give you a hard time. You're going to be super pumped about your growing skills, that you're gonna want more plants. And another cool thing is you could start with a small plant and grow it out and propagate it, and you can have one plant that is trailing and one plant that is climbing up a pole. And I love plants that you could do that to, because that's a huge learning experience, being able to see what a plant does when it trails down versus seeing what a plant does when it climbs up something. And you'll start to see the leaves getting bigger, and it just kind of takes on the look of a whole other plant, which is really cool. These Monstera adansonii are $14.99 for the 4-inch pot, $24.99 for the 6-inch hanging pot, and you can also get a narrow form in this super full 8 or 10 inch pot for $39.99, and even I am tempted to buy this one. Next plant is the satin pothos. It is not a pothos. It is a Scindapsus. Other people say Scindapsus. This is the Syngoniums pictus, and I can't say this enough. I really recommend this plant for beginners because even now, at the point that I am in my collection, I still get tempted to buy them when I see beautiful big pots like this. So this plant never gets old. Every time I water all of my Scindapsus pictus exoticas, I always take the time to admire them because it's just such a beautiful plant. And it doesn't require a lot of light or humidity. I have it sitting in my shelf, like where I do my filming, and it does not get a lot of light. However, it's still growing. It's growing really beautifully. So, I highly recommend the Scindapsus pictus exotica because these beautiful shimmery silver leaves never get old, and they're really nice and thick. It's just a really cool plant. So never a plant to scoff at because it's just so beautiful. This is another one that you can also play with. You can have one climbing. This one, Scindapsus, tend to shingle if you have it climbing up a moss pole or something like that. So that's really cool. And by shingle, I mean these leaves start to grow really close together when it climbs, and it's a really cool effect. Another good thing about the Scindapsus pictus exotica is that they're fairly easy to find, and they're really affordable too. And trust me guys, you will love your Scindapsus pictus exotica forever once you pick one up. Scindapsus pictus exotica is $11.99 for the 4-inch pot. Just look at the beautiful shimmery leaves. Ugh. If you can tell, gets me every time. And $29.99 for these 6-inch hanging pots. Look, this one's nice and full. And these are so beautiful and so silvery. Another awesome house plant that I recommend is this Pilea peperomioides, also known as the Chinese money plant. These get really beautiful when they grow, and they tend to grow little babies, little pups around the base of the plant. So you'll have many more plants with just purchasing one, and that's really cool. That's why it's called the friendship plant, because you could take those pups, propagate them into total other plants, give them away to your friends. You can also keep them in the pot with the mother plant, and you'll have this beautiful Pilea peperomioides colony. And it's just so cool. These get really tall. These lean towards the light. You'll have to rotate it if you want good even growth. And this is also another plant that I still love. I still love my very first Pilea peperomioides. I have one growing inside and I have one growing outside. I think the most important thing about keeping the Pilea peperomioides is the watering. You just want to make sure that you're watering it when the soil is absolutely bone dry. Next, best houseplant for beginners is this. This is the Ceropegia woodii, also known as the string of hearts, and these are great because you'll see it has these really cute, icy hearts on a string, and these grow really fast. And these are really beautiful too when they're nice and full and cascading. Very, very bohemian, and it'll add a romantic vibe to any room. String of hearts are super easy again. I've had my string of hearts in not so good of lighting, and I've had it in really good lighting. It still grew even though it wasn't in the best of light. String of hearts is another houseplant that is easily propagated. So you can have many other plants with one pot of string of hearts. There are multiple ways of propagating it. You can just lay the vines on top of the soil and they'll eventually root if you keep it in a humid environment. You can also plant each node into sphagnum moss, also known as the butterfly method. But these are really fun and easy. The string of hearts are $29.99 here. I can't do a top 10 best beginners houseplant without talking about Hoyas. There's so many different types of Hoyas, but I will just lump all the Hoyas into one because you really can't go wrong with any of the common Hoyas that are easily found. Like the Hoya carrii, these have the heart-shaped leaves. You can buy these as the single hearts too. If you ever see those hearts that are partially buried in soil. Let me see if I could find one here. I found one. Like these. This is a Hoya carrii sweetheart. If you want this to grow into a full plant, don't buy this, because it'll just stay a leaf forever. It's just a leaf buried in some soil, which will keep that alive for maybe forever. But you need a little bit of stem for that to grow into a full plant. So just don't buy that expecting it to grow into a full plant. But yeah, those are the same things as these Hoya carrii. And Hoya carrii are cool because, like any other Hoya, well, I guess all Hoyas are cool, but a lot of Hoyas you could find in different forms. So you can find an all green Hoya carrii. You can also find a Hoya carrii splash, and it has super splashy leaves, kind of like this. See, I love the splashing on that. This is a Hoya pubicalis, but you can also find some that are variegated, like that one heart that I showed you. And another awesome Hoya that I love and is super easy is the obovata. The obovata is very similar to the carrii. The stem isn't as thick, but it grows these beautiful oblong-shaped leaves. And this you could also find in different forms or colors. Like, I have a pink splash that's pink from sun stressing, and there's an inner variegated Hoya obovata and an outer variegated Hoya obovata. Really beautiful. Speaking of variegation, there is the Hoya carnosa crimson princess, which shows the variegation on the inside of the leaf. This is the variegated version of the carnosa. Oh, this is a princess, it's just reverted. You have the princess, and then there's also the queen. And the queen is gorgeous too, because You could see the white parts. If you give it enough light, it emerges a beautiful pink. And these are the outer variegated Hoya carnosas. And then, if that wasn't exciting enough, there is one carnosa with a mutation, and it is the Carnosa compacta. So these are basically the same leaves, they just curl. And this is also known as the Hindu rope because when these single stems grow, they grow into these beautiful long ropes, and they're covered in these beautiful curly leaves. It's really impressive. And the Hoyas range from $14.99 for this Hoya pubicalis to $24.99 for this splashy Hoya pubicalis. $19.99 for these Australis lisa, which is the inner variegated Hoya australis. The Hoya australis is $24.99. Ooh. It's less than the inner variegated one, which I think is far prettier anyways. And $24.99 for the variegated carnosas. The Crimson Princess, which is the inner variegated, and the Crimson Queen, which is the outer variegated. And again, these are both $24.99. And you'll commonly find that these Hoya carnosa compactas, also known as the Hindu rope, will be priced slightly higher at $39.99, and that's pretty much how all places price them. These are always just a little more. Next awesome plant for beginners is the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. Like all the other plants that I'm showing you in this video, this is a good staple for any collector, and these grow beautifully up a wall. Give it some support and you'll have this really cool vine with these really neat leaves that grow on it. This is also called the Monstera minima, however it is not a Monstera, it's a Rhaphidophora, the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. Next best houseplant for beginners is this. This is the Spathiphyllum domino, also known as the peace lily domino. Look at the beautiful leaf. No, these are really cool. Nothing to stick your nose up at, because you can find some really beautiful examples of the peace lily domino, and this is one of them. Look at that, it's got that cool mutation in the middle where it's got super variegated leaves. I'm actually really tempted to buy this because it's so pretty. This is a plant that I highly recommend. I think that it has these beautiful splashy leaves and it's got a really cool texture to it. What I like about peace lilies for beginners is that it's a dramatic plant, and I feel like we all need to experience a good drama because it's just another way for us to learn more about our plants. These get really wilty when they're thirsty, and the first time you see it you might panic, but you kind of just know. It's like, oh, it's time to water it. And then it'll perk right back up. No biggie. Kind of like when kids fall and they don't cry. I don't know, does that make sense? When they just get right back up and keep running. But this might be one of the most beautiful domino peace lilies I've ever seen. Oh, not me getting distracted from my recommendations. The only thing is that it's in an 8-inch pot, yes, but I feel like $44.99 is a lot to pay for a peace lily. I would pay maybe like $30 for an 8-inch because I've seen peace lily dominoes go for 12 to 16, and this is just one step above that, but that variegation is gorgeous. Now this will be sitting in the back of my head as I go through the rest of this video. And I can't have this top 10 best houseplants for beginners list without including Syngoniums. Syngoniums are awesome. These are very easy to grow. These are like the pothos. These are very much like pothos, except the leaves are these really cool arrowhead shaped, hence its name. It's the arrowhead vine. But just look at how beautiful. These come in all kinds of different cultivars. You'll have different shapes, sizes, and colors of the leaves. And this is another one that the leaves kind of change as they mature. Have you seen a super mature Syngonium before? These are really cool when they mature. And they're super easy. Oh, this is kind of giving me strawberry ice vibes. You can have them from these super affordable varieties, and they even have some super exotic varieties like the one that I mentioned, the strawberry ice, the Syngonium pink spot. There's the pink splash, that's really pretty. But it's always good to start out with one of these more easily findable and affordable ones, so that way you can experiment with it and you won't suffer too much heartache when something goes wrong. Oh, and you like how that ZZ plant is just subliminally calling you? It's like, Patrick's not going to talk about me, but I'm going to be here because I'm a great beginner plant too. Next best houseplant for beginners, I will have to say, is the Staghorn fern. I think it's one of the coolest ferns out there, and ferns don't get a lot of love, but of all the ferns that do get love, I'd say that Staghorn ferns are one of the ones that get the most love, and rightfully so, because these are just so cool. See how it grows, that really cool kind of shield frond? That's what I love about them. And these look even more amazing mounted, but those are a little more high maintenance. So I do love the look of them in a hanging basket like this. So they do great in a covered patio, or if you want to have it indoors, you can have it in a little bit of a brighter situation, because these do like a lot of light to grow, a lot of bright indirect light. They can handle some morning sun and later afternoon sun, but not that peak heat sun, you know? but these are beautiful. And the hanging baskets are really easy to care for too. You basically just water it when it's dry, feed it when you think about it. Not even that often. You don't have to feed these often in order for it to grow. And here's a good example of a really big staghorn fern. Let me see if I could find some that are mounted. So when you get a little more confident and maybe you get tired of it being in a hanging basket, you can go ahead and mount it yourself, which is a really cool project. I have yet to do that myself, but the process looks easy enough. You kind of just play around with fishing wire and sphagnum moss. But I love how these look. See, I don't recommend these for beginners just yet because of how difficult it is to water them. You gotta take them down and water them. But you'll get there if you start with one of these. Finally, the top houseplant that I recommend for beginners is the Monstera deliciosa. It's iconic for a reason. And these are plants that amuse even the most experienced growers because they're just really fun to grow. These get really huge. It's always fun to try to get one to mature from these leaves to these leaves to get the fenestrations. And the more time passes, the bigger these leaves get and the more fenestrations happen too. So you'll start to get holes on the inside. Super cool. Let me show you a more mature Monstera deliciosa. So this is the larger, more mature Monstera deliciosa, and I'm sure you've seen this before because like I said, it's an iconic plant, but this is how huge they get. This one's got to be, I mean, many years old. Look at this one. That's such a cute and perfect leaf. See, I love Monstera deliciosas, and this is another one that you can grow outside because, you know, once these get really big, you'll start to see how much space they actually need. But if you're a beginner and you buy one of those smaller plants and you eventually get one to grow into one of these, that's pretty G, and you should be really proud of yourself. So that's why I recommend getting one as a beginner and have one grow with you as a grower. These 8-inch Monstera deliciosa are $39, and the large ones are $269.99 for that delicious monster. Well, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. I had so much fun showing you my top 10 favorite recommendations for beginners houseplants. That was a really good list. I tried to make it as well-rounded as I could. There's obviously many more, so I can make more of these if you'd like. Here's an example of how much I love the plants that I just showed you. I wasn't lying when I told you that I was tempted to buy one still. And I did. I'm taking home this beauty. So yeah, you'll never get sick of Monstera adansonii, I promise. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. And if you like this video, you know what to do. Please throw me a bone and give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my plant videos, come plant shopping with me. Hit that subscribe button. I can't wait to see you in the next video. I just don't want to miss you too much. So if you could show me some love in the comments, and I'll meet you there. Bye!